All right, everybody, we are back with Learning Skirmish Game 3. I'm Zach.
And I'm Rick.
And this time we have our own Jonathan Wooley facing off against our own Rick Harrelson. What a game we're going to have here. This is Get to the Ship on the Mos Eisley Outskirts map. As you'll see, there are 4 tokens in the middle of the board that represents the ship. At the end of each round, for each of the gray tokens that you control, which means you're the only player with a model next to the token, you'll gain 2 points. And during a turn, you can spend an activation to flip one of those tokens over to a colored side. For each colored token that you control at the end of each round, you'll gain 5 points instead. Those are the rules. Both players trying to get to 40 points, also scoring points when they destroy an entire group of models, an activation card basically. And we'll see who can get to 40 first. Rick, you're in this game. You guys are playing with lists that you're very familiar with. Can you give me a rundown of the list you guys brought to this game and maybe a peek behind the idea behind each list?
Yeah, I, in fact, am intimately familiar with both, as they are both my lists. Jonathan may not be quite as familiar with his list. He's running my light side list there. And that includes Luke and Gideon and Mac. Those are my uniques. And then the rest of the list is saboteurs. You got 4 groups of saboteurs there, bringing the heat, bringing the pain. These guys are terrifying to see coming at you. We've got 2.
They're also beautiful.
They are also gorgeous, and he's got 2 elites and 2 regular units of saboteurs. I'm on the other side, and I'm running General Weiss. It's that giant unpainted black model on the board.
He's black.
Yeah, man, he's primed and ready to go, as one might say. He is going to dominate that board. He's just so
Is that a prediction,
giant.
or is that an actual factual statement?
It was a factual statement about his size, but yeah.
I got it. Dominating the scope.
Yeah, he's quite large, although my arm is dominating it at the moment. And then we've also got 2 units of stormtroopers. We have one is elite. I was just playing with it, trying it out. I usually do a regular group, but I wanted to see how the elites would work out.
And you had the fresh alt art version sitting over there.
Yeah,
so
I
why
had
not?
to sort of throw it in there. Yeah. And it looks great. And then I have 1 elite officer and 2 regular officers to round out the list there.
And so what's for those at home watching who may not know, what's the biggest difference between the elite officer and the regular standard officer? And why are you using it in this list in particular? I'm curious.
Yeah, the biggest difference, the biggest differences are with points. So the elite officer costs more than twice as much, 150% more. So he costs 5 points, and a regular officer only costs 2. He has, I think, slightly more health, but the
Looks
big
like 2 more.
Yeah, the big difference is that he, instead of just allowing someone to take a movement action on his turn, he can give someone else a attack action as well.
Imagine if you're running some big, terrifying unit that you want to attack with more than once in a turn.
Yeah, like General Weiss, for instance.
Yeah, like a giant dude with blast. It's crazy. All right, that's cool.
So that's why he's in there, and I hope he's worth his points. Or I was trying this list out, and
is he 16 points?
Weiss is, yes. So he is quite expensive.
Almost a Vader up in there. Looks like we have a stormtrooper going off the board early. You guys are already engaging. Been a couple moves going on, and that first turn a lot of times is just a lot of positioning because you're not in range to shoot each other. But at this point, that's a stormtrooper off the board.
Yeah, 1 down, and an elite one at that. Not really what I want to see early on. Although I am playing General Weiss, and with his command card and, of course, the command deck that I built, I've got a lot of ways to get him back on the board, put him back into play. So I'm not too worried about losing a Stormtrooper until the whole unit is gone.
That's when it becomes a problem.
That's when it becomes an
Opponent
issue.
scores points. You can't play command cards to get them.
Yeah, can't get them back then. So at this point, it's fine. I should also mention that you might notice, if you know the scenario at home, that we are missing a door.
We are missing a door, top right.
There is normally a door top right, where the outside meets the inside there. The gray butts up against the brown.
The sand. Yeah.
We forgot about that, and so it is not on the board. So that's why he's able to get right up in there at the beginning with his saboteurs. But Yeah, so he's contesting me. Neither of us are going to get the card unless he's able to kill that trooper there.
Oh, man, he offed that trooper on the bottom there with the Saboteur.
Yeah, 2 troopers down already. This
From
is
different units, though.
This is a rate of trooper loss that I don't want to happen.
Every other activation, roughly?
Every other activation. But those Saboteurs really do a lot of damage. And so it looks like he's moving around the corner there with the Saboteur, so we can get an extra card and also be safe.
Yeah, he's behind the red square. That's basically something coming off the floor.
Yeah, can't shoot through it. So he is safe at the moment.
And so Get to the Ship is a scenario that it's in the core set, so you see it a lot. And it's kind of this weird thing where it's one of the few scenarios where you pile into the middle here. And there's going to be action in the middle. You're fighting over these points in the middle. I'm curious to see Jonathan here kind of dividing all of his forces. You sent a stormtrooper to the top to basically get that terminal, and he's kind of pretty divided here, especially when you have the general that's going to be coming down the pipe. I'm surprised to see so many of his guns separated like this.
It's actually, I think, maybe a good choice. I see what you're saying. I see what you're getting at. And I think probably if he sends any more people to the top, that might be an issue.
Not necessarily
later.
the right thing to do.
Yeah. But you also, you don't want to do, and I'm activating Weiss here, bringing that big guy in.
Here he comes.
But imagine if he had instead taken all of his Saboteurs to the middle, and I come in with Weiss and all that blast damage. You don't want that either, right? So I can see why maybe he would want to wait a bit.
Yeah.
At least until I go with Weiss before he starts getting crazy up in there. So I moved Weiss up in here. I don't think I did. I used his activation to do that. Another thing to note is that instead of turning the card sideways to note that our cards have activated, we are in this video putting strain on the cards.
Like you see here on the board.
Like you see on the board to indicate that we have used that unit.
And it looks like you guys both just finished the round, so Jonathan scoring 2 points from the bottom right part of the ship, and you scoring 4 from the topmost part of the ship, and 4-2 after the first round. How you feeling at this point? Did Luke just get smoked?
He did get hurt there. He is not looking great, actually. He's a little over half health down.
Looks like he's moving the damage to the card there.
Just going to put it on the card to keep track of it, but that's great for me. So at this point, I've got a lot of troopers there to score things with, if necessary. And I just want to chase Luke down. I want to kill him. I want to get rid of that threat.
Yeah, Luke, kind of the centerpiece of this list. So not only would it score you 10 points, but it would remove one of his best models from the game.
Mm-hmm. So here I moved a trooper over, and I played a command card, throwing a grenade at that empty space that I just pointed to. And I'm going to do 2 damage to both of those guys.
Both Luke and that Saboteur.
So that was a decent thing there. Running a lot of cards in the command deck that utilize troopers.
Looks like that trooper was able to just take out that Saboteur.
Yep. Shot him there. Didn't have another.
No more grenades.
No more grenades there. I'm sort of trying to clog up that opening there.
Yeah, I was going to say it's an interesting tactic because you are blocking the way, but with Saboteurs on the board, they have a lot of blast. So
they do, and they can also move through me. If they really need to get in there, but I wanted to try to force that. Like, again, they're stormtroopers. They're meant to die. They're fodder.
They are meant to die.
So he's either going to have to, use some extra movement to try to get through and use an extra activation, part of an activation for that, or take the time and shoot them, which, again, uses more of his activation where he's not scoring those middle points.
For sure.
And I'm going to further complicate the issue, as you see right now, by dumping Weiss.
And so this is something.
On top of them.
You're putting Weiss on top of the ship, which is interesting in and of itself. But tell me about this tactic here. I think that's pretty brilliant because you're touching all of the ship with him, and you're also blocking spaces that he can't go to stop you from getting those points.
It's true. I also did not use his activation to do that. I moved him with an officer. So I get to put him sort of right in the middle of it. Now, the one thing that is a problem with this, when you have a giant model who you can always have line of sight to this guy, you can't block it with models. He's just too big. So he doesn't have a lot of defense. If everyone wants to shoot him and kill him, they can certainly do that. He's probably going to die. But they're spending all their activations
To kill that one model.
To kill that one model. Hopefully, I'm going to flip some things, score some points. That was my thought. I knew that he would eventually die, but if I can have him doing damage while he's there, killing some people, forcing them, before they can even come in and score, to try to...
Sure. And I think with the two black defense dice, he's arguably the hardest target you have to kill. So if Jonathan's going to spend all of his activations digging into that tunnel, basically, to get rid of Weiss, I think that's a great tactic.
Well, it could also go horribly wrong. Say he rolls incredibly well and straight up murders a Weiss. That's certainly a waste of Weiss. And it looks
like he's moving again.
Yeah, I'm doing some turning here. So at this point, he's taken a lot of damage because as we were talking about it, he was moving those saboteurs in, taking some shots, whittling down bit by bit. And so I'm pretty low. I think I've got like 2 health or something like that left.
Yeah. Now this is interesting because you're putting your Weiss on all the stormtroopers. How does that work?
Yeah. So you can, as a massive unit, you can move on top of normal units. When you stop, that ends your turn. You can't move after that. But everyone that was under you has to move to the closest adjacent space. So I'm pushing my own guys back a bit. And I'm, again, just trying to use him at this point as a clog, so that, they'll have to use their activation to kill me. Walking through me isn't going to be all that feasible because they'd have to use 2 points per space of my base. So, and now I'm basically giving away those 16 points, but I'm trying to make him work for it a little bit here.
He can't really hide, so he may as well be in the action, right, doing something for you.
Yeah. So that's why he's there. I push them back a little bit into the interior.
Now, I think it's also a creative use of a massive model to divide your stormtroopers, right? Because they were next to each other. Blast could have taken them.
Yes.
Ooh, there goes Weiss.
And he's going to kill him. Yeah, he takes Weiss down. Poor Weiss. But yes,
Weiss.
now
Boom.
all the stormtroopers are, in fact, separated.
Which is good.
Yeah.
I think massive models as a movement tactic is very interesting because you could push models next to each other for your own blast or models away or up the field.
There's
for
a
your
lot
own
you can
benefits.
do. Yeah. And in fact, if I had waited with Weiss and let him move in to try to take these scoring areas in the middle and then moved Weiss on top, I could have pushed him
out of the scoring areas.
Yeah. So there's really a lot that you can do. So that might have been a better tactic here. But Luke is still is pretty hurt. Now granted, Luke has many less points than Weiss, but so far things have gone as I planned. But I bet Jonathan is also feeling pretty happy. He is 10 points ahead at the moment. It is 18-8. And I am not so happy that Weiss is already off of the board.
Looks like you guys finished the round there, and each Imperial player scored 4 points. So you're only 10 behind now. You have the 2 rightmost parts of the ship uncontested.
Well, he's got Mac in there.
Well, you had the right side of the ship,
yes,
right?
Correct.
But he does have Mac, which he looks to be moving.
Yeah, he's moving him out of there now.
Now, do you know, it looked like he moved a Stormtrooper, and did he play the command card to move when you entered the adjacent space?
Yes, I believe that was the case. I should also say that in order for him to kill Weiss earlier, he played the assault card, where he uses 2 actions and gets +4 damage.
Nice.
So that was one way he was able to get through.
That's great.
Those command cards always doing a lot of work, changing the sort of the face.
Yeah,
of
it's a huge part of the game.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's speaking a little bit to him on the terminals, getting to those important command cards to really have an impact like that. Looks like you also were just able to knock off Mac, getting the score even closer, but I think the activation count is something to keep watch here.
It is, and I'm down, of course, my most threatening unit, and some of the other units that I brought, particularly the Imperial officer that is an elite, is also doing a lot less work without Weiss to command. I mean, his best unit now is a Stormtrooper to give an extra attack, which is not really all that threatening.
Not that threatening. But it's threatening enough, it looks, to take Luke off the board, which just happened.
It did. I was able to kill Luke. He returns by killing another regular trooper. But now I'm pretty happy. So we're pretty close in score now.
I was going to say, the score's pretty close. You guys have an equal number of, power level on models. He lost Luke. You lost Weiss, who's a little more expensive, but he's also been able to. You've also been able to take out Mac. And if you look at his saboteurs, 3 of his 4 saboteur groups, including both elites, are down a unit.
Yeah, it's getting much closer. Okay, so I want to talk about how great he's able to use Gideon here. Gideon basically hasn't moved all game since the first turn, but he has been...
Ain't nobody got time for that.
He's been throwing out focus. He was able to get Luke in there early and quickly with his movement ability. And as you see, he just... Okay, so he is there to give a focus to an elite saboteur, and I was terrified of it. So I moved in a regular officer, and I took a shot at that guy, and I was able to kill that officer.
I always love when the officer knocks someone off, man. It's so good.
It is exactly what you want. Sometimes we forget that officers can do some damage as well. But they shoot just like a stormtrooper. All right, so I'm going to move this purple... officer and hopefully get him to score some points here. Now, at this point, I should say some things are about to happen.
Some interesting things happen.
Some interesting things. So
it appears the saboteur kills the officer that was standing there.
Yes, and it turns out, as we will soon see, that did not actually happen. The rolls were. Is actually 2 damage and a stun.
On the saboteur.
We thought the saboteur we thought the saboteur could add damage, and then of course upon looking at it, we realized he couldn't.
He does have Pierce though, so
he does have Pierce.
It can normally seem like he's doing more damage.
He can also add blast, but again, that wouldn't affect that particular model. So we're about to figure that out. So he scores the 2 points, and then the 2 points for his saboteur being next to it. I score the 5 points for
being
the yellow,
next to the yellow token there.
But now we realize our mistake. My officer is on the board again.
So Jonathan loses 4 points because
2 from the killing and 2 from the one that he would have scored because no one was next to it.
And instead, you gain...
I gained 10.
10 instead of 5, so 5 extra.
Officer.
So you have a stunned officer because he had the surge, because they have stun. And now you're only 2 points away from victory. So you're basically looking at, can I kill any model on the board?
Yes, yes.
And Jonathan also has to stop you from getting any ship token.
That is also true.
I have a problem.
I have to score no ship tokens, and any model but one of those blue saboteurs. If I kill a blue saboteur, I have to kill both because neither of them have been.
Oh, okay, because they're both on the board.
But every other one of his things.
Yeah, and this is really what makes, I think, when you have a scenario in a game like this really shine, is that you could, if there wasn't the scenario going on, Jonathan, if a model's about to run out of health, he could just hide and run with that model and not really let you score the points. But in this case, he can't run and prevent you from getting the ship. He has to have a certain number of models in the middle of the board, which is forcing the issue and forcing the action, which is what makes a lot of these scenarios just phenomenal.
Yeah, this is one of those few in the base and the ones that are out so far that require you to hang around. A lot of times it's about speed and then getting to certain places before the other person, or getting there and then running away.
Yeah, they kind of force the early game movement and interaction with each other.
Which is why those officers and those royal guards are usually so good. But in this case, you've got to also be able to hang around,
Yep. Looks like Jonathan's able to get that last normal stormtrooper off the board.
Yeah, so he scores some more points there, getting closer to victory himself. And it looks bleak for Jonathan, I think, at this point. He certainly has a lot more firepower than I do on the board, but he's just so close to the loss that I can just, as I'm doing here, just put a bunch of guys next to those tokens.
Yep.
And
looks like you took a shot at Gideon.
Make him. Yeah, I'm moving over there. He's got a little damage on him now. If I can get Gideon, he's worth 3 points. That'll give me the win. And it also allows me to, be pretty close to the middle still.
Yep.
So that I can score those points, hopefully.
At this point in the game, I still think it's deceptively close, because if Jonathan can if you look at the models, right, you have 3 officers, one of which has 1 health left, and you have two elite stormtroopers. So if Jonathan could kill 1 or 2 models and get next to the ship on towards the end of a turn, he could just as easily get the points he needs to win as you for the 2. Yeah. Obviously, it's a little more risky because you're...
Especially those back 2,
Yeah, just 10 points, boom.
boom.
Like boom.
Like boom. Yeah, he's able to stun that. He's able to stun that trooper. It's not too bad for me there, as he's already activated and he's sitting on the where he wants to be. But if we go to another turn, I'm going to have some issues. Yeah. So I move another officer in there at this point.
And at this point, you're just making him have to contest so many spots on that ship.
Yeah, and he just doesn't have the manpower. He's moved with everybody but Gideon now, and I don't think Gideon has the movement to stop all those guys.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible that he could move into a position where he could shoot one of the guys and contest on the other part of the ship. But I just don't see the math here on how he's going to be able to stop you. He'd have to be in like 6 places at once here.
And, if anyone could do it,
Gideon can.
Gideon can do it. He's going to get right up in there. But yeah, I don't see it now because and at this point, I'm fine with it.
You're just moving the offshore.
Because I'm going to score those 5 points in the back.
Yeah.
He's already, gone. So I figure I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, I mean, there are setups that could maybe deal with this, right? Like if he still had Luke and he maybe had the Son of Skywalker command card to be able to go again. But at this point, it looks like you're just going to get the game. Yeah. And you did.
And there it is, the handshake.
All right, what did we learn before we get out of here and head on to the next game?
We learned some interesting things about massive movement, and I also...
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. Also, we should pay attention to exactly what is on a card when you're rolling to make sure someone doesn't die, or if you think that they die. That's
important. Read the cards, roll the dice.
Pretty basic, but important stuff to remember. Yeah.
Cool. Well, this has been Learning Skirmish Game 3. We'll be back with more at teamcovenant.com. If you need anything for Imperial Assault, check us out, and we'll have plenty more videos on the way. See you guys next time.